Dear friends, welcome to the world of journalism and mass communication. It is among the fastest growing sectors in the world today, and more people are getting influenced by the media than ever before. To begin with, we will discuss a very basic part of this subject in this lecture, and this deals with writing for the media. This will include the kinds of writing for the media, components of such writing, factors of writing, and the impact of media writing. So let us begin with what writing is all about. Writing is the most preferred means of expression among the people who are literate or even semi-literate. Such people write for a variety of reasons. They could be doing it for purely self-explanatory satisfaction, such as writing a personal diary. Some could be writing for telling a story or disseminating information, such as writing fiction or textbooks. Some literate and articulate persons using writing as a means of self-expression could produce literary classics such as novels and award-winning products. Now let us see what are the basic kinds of writing. Broadly speaking, there are two kinds of writing. One is personal writing and the other is public writing. Personal writing includes writing a diary or notes of self-expression, and such writing could lead to creation of literature. In such writing, a distinctly personal and private style could be acceptable because the end result, that is the book or the novel or whatever, could be meant for a limited readership. Examples of such writing are stories, novels, autobiography, memoirs, poetry, fiction, etc. But when writing is done for the specific purpose of conveying a message or information to a large and heterogeneous and more or less unknown audience, then it is important to use a style that is acceptable to the largest section of the audience. This is public writing, and this is the essence of what writing for the media is all about. Such writing includes products such as news, features, interviews, articles, reviews, etc., and all other kinds of writing which we see in the print and other forms of media. In the world of journalism and mass communication, writing in a clearly acceptable style is required, because the purpose of writing is unambiguous. There are no two doubts about it. It is meant to convey certain specific information to the audience rather than conveying personal thoughts or memoirs or musings, fiction, or even opinion. Besides, writing for the media has a basic premise that it is based on facts. Straight fact-based writing is acceptable to the widest section of a heterogeneous audience. Journalism, which is a major and perhaps the most significant part of the exercise of mass communication, utilizes the process of delivering information, ideas, and attitudes to a sizable and diversified audience through the use of media developed for that purpose. The communicator addresses thousands or more of different personalities at the same time and cannot adjust an appeal to meet their individual reactions or demands. An approach that convinces one part of the audience may alienate another part. Therefore, the successful communicator in media is the one who finds the right method and combination of expression to establish empathy with the largest possible number of individuals in the audience at any given time, whatever the medium. Medium means it could be print, it could be audio, it could be visual, or it could be the web. Now, let's come to the purpose of writing. What is the purpose and the task for a writer for the media? Basically, it is knowing what to communicate and knowing how to deliver the message. An effective message is one that is not only well presented, but it is well selected also. The message has to be selected properly to suit the needs of the audience and then it has to be presented well in a style that it becomes acceptable. Writing for a mass medium such as print, audio and visual must convey the right meaning to an extremely diverse audience. It is vital to make the meaning clear at all levels of the audience, from the neo-literate to the highly literate or even a writer itself. For mass circulation, the writing has to be readable as well as correct. It has to be correct also, even if the audience does not know the difference between what is correct and incorrect. It has to be correct. Correct writing must never be pompous. It should not use difficult words, and good writing requires that the correctness is inconspicuous. It should not be done with the purpose of sounding correct. It should be correct because it has to be correct. On the other hand, readable and meaningful writing need not be incorrect. So, these are the basic requirements and purpose of writing for the media. There are certain points that need to be remembered for good writing for the media. These are writing short and simple sentences, avoiding to adopt the style of write as you talk. When we talk, we use a lot of words, phrases and pronunciation which are acceptable when we are talking, but they may not be acceptable when we are writing. We have to look for simple alternatives to difficult and complex words and phrases. There is always one available. We have to look for it. We must break complicated sentences into shorter parts. We have to write in meaningful manner without appearing to show off our knowledge, and we have to be sure about our spellings without taking any chances. Let's come to the types of media writing. The media world today is growing very rapidly, and newer means of conveying information are emerging thanks to the giant strides in information and communication technology. Some decades ago, the media meant only the printed publications, which is known as the print media in a wider form. But now the electronic or the audiovisual media has come to occupy a large part of the media industry all over the world. With the technical inputs and equipment getting affordable and easily available, the reach of the radio and television as media is expanding so fast that it threatens to overshadow the print media. The audience in the case of these two platforms is also different. It is a wide variety of listeners for radio and an equally wide variety of viewers for television. In both cases, it may not be important for the audience to have a very deep knowledge of the language, but for the writers in these two cases, they have to be as careful as in the case of print media, because they have to be correct with their knowledge of language and presentation regardless of the level of education of the audience. Dealing with a heterogeneous audience is tricky enough, but dealing with a huge audience which does not care much for the correctness of language or presentation is even more difficult. The responsibility of the writer for such media is therefore much greater. The kind and level of writing for audio and visual media are also vastly different. While in print media, the writer can afford to adopt an explanatory style, use slightly difficult or even literary words, but in the case of electronic media, the content has to be much simpler because the audience here could be semi-literate or even uneducated. We shall first discuss the writing for print media and then move on to the electronic media. In print media, the kind of writing required is in different heads, such as writing a news report, news analysis, feature, interview, backgrounders, curtain raisers, reviews, and editorials. In all such cases, there is a very clear difference between good writing and good reporting. I must intervene here to say that writing is an activity that is taken up by a journalist or even a non-journalist. A journalist who writes can be a writer or a reporter, whereas media writing can be taken up by non-reporters also. So when we talk about media writing, we are talking about writers who are non-reporters and writers who are reporters. For reporters, the essential issues are accuracy, objectivity, fairness and credibility, whereas the elements of writing that make a news story exciting, fun and compelling to read include elements such as personal touch, human element, comments and subjectivity. As you can understand, it is not easy to strike a balance between the two, but eventual success also depends on how quickly and easily this balance is achieved. Now let's come to components of media writing. Writing for the media has a specific purpose: to inform, to educate and to entertain. Since the purpose is clear and defined, therefore the components of writing also are quite defined. These are an introduction, a description and a conclusion. There has to be an introduction to the subject which is being written about, much like the first few lines that we see before the start of a new chapter in any book, textbook or novel. Then there is a description after the introduction, which is the main descriptive mass of the writing that includes the necessary information, and then at the end there is a brief conclusion. The conclusion includes any questions that arise from the description, the future possibilities that may arise and any other related information that needs to be given. Now we move on to approaches towards writing for the media. There are two largely acceptable approaches towards writing for the print media. One is the straight approach and the other is the storytelling approach. What is the straight approach? The first and foremost point in the straight approach of media writing is that such writing must take care of the 5 W's and 1 H. These are basic and elementary components of the media writing, which mean what, when, where, who, why and how. As you can see and understand, the answers to these 6 questions can satisfy the demand for information in almost every case. When straight and simple news is to be conveyed, this approach is the best. It has stood the test of time, it is internationally acceptable and it shall always be in demand. This straight style is adopted by writers who do not and need not convey their opinion in their writing. It is best used for conveying news based on hard facts. The other approach is the storytelling approach. Although writing style is a subjective thing and it varies from person to person, yet it is very important to cultivate a storytelling approach, especially in modern day journalism, because here attention grabbing is becoming more important. It is a style where even a straight report begins with a subjective comment. It is always truthful, there is never a compromise with facts, but it may not be objective, because when we comment, we tend to give our opinion. So it has to be correct, but not necessarily objective. For example, there could be a news report about an accident. The straight approach would be one person was injured or killed when the motorcycle he was riding was hit behind by a truck. In the storytelling approach, the same information and the same set of facts could be used like this: Mr. So-and-so's family could not get the gift they were waiting for, as unruly traffic on the city's roads took another life when Mr. So-and-so was killed in an accident. As you can see that the same facts of the accident have been used in 2 different approaches, One is straight when the hard facts are given as it is, and the other is like telling a story where even the most difficult facts, or the most, you can say, facts related to accident or a sad situation are presented in the form of a story. Another example could be when writing about drought or the shortage of rainfall in a particular year. The straight approach could be like writing the drought situation continues to be grim in so and so states of the country, and the storytelling approach would write farmers with blank eyes are staring into space in vast areas of central India. Now, both the approaches are using the same kind of facts, but the approach is so different that the second style appears like a story. It grabs attention and probably it could be remembered. The only difference is that in a straight story, the facts are delivered in a hurry, so there are people who are in a hurry, so it is suitable for them. In a story based approach, it could be useful for people who have a lot of time at their disposal and they can read everything at leisure. In the straight approach, as I mentioned before, the answers to the 5 W's and 1 H set of questions has to be given very clearly, as briefly and crisply as possible, whereas in the storytelling approach, the answers have to be given in a very different format. The format must include identification of a central character or a situation. Like I mentioned in the case of an accident, the straight approach simply said a man was injured, whereas the story approach would identify the central character who was injured or killed, take his name, the facts regarding his family and so on, and weave a story around it. The story approach will give detailed description with lots of color and additional side facts. The story approach will get personal with small comments or anecdotes, and it will also recall past incidents or situation to emphasize the point, like this is the same road which has taken a toll of so many people in the last 10 years. And the story approach also uses side stories along with the main narration to highlight the emotion and the sentiment in the story rather than resting on facts alone. Now, in both the cases, acquisition and use of certain writing skills is important. Let us move on to how such writing skills can be developed. There are certain elementary principles of composition which are required when you are writing for the media. These are related to use of language, use of expressions and phrases, and use of parts of writing which all of you must have learnt in school or college, but now you have to use them with a different purpose, because now you are not writing for your personal satisfaction or a diary or a notebook, but you will be required to write for a wide audience which may or may not be very educated. Now, some simple principles of right and correct composition are: having a paragraph as a unit of composition. In this case, one paragraph needs to be given to each topic. Topic means when you are writing for the media, we are dealing with information, we are dealing with a press conference, we are dealing with information which has been given to us by the government or by some other people. So, the information may contain several topics or small subheads. So, a paragraph has to be created for each topic and subhead so that it becomes the unit of composition. It means that we must try to learn and use a paragraph to wrap up that topic in itself. As a rule, such paragraphs must begin with a topic sentence and end with in conformity with the beginning. if we are writing about the budget, for example, we write about taxes, levies, price cuts, price increase, and so on. So if we are talking about prices of, say, petrol, we write, in the case of petrol, the prices of petroleum products were reduced or increased, and so on, and the paragraph has to end with a mention to petrol itself. It should not move on to things like fertilizers. Use of an active voice. Using an active voice in media writing is very important because this retains and maintains the interest of the reader. Using statements in a positive form. Positive form means writing in a straight format rather than writing with lots of no's and denials. In a positive form, things are understood much more clearly. Omit needless words. All of us, when we start writing for the first time in the media, we try to show off our knowledge of words, the kind of words which we have learnt through school, college, and our own reading of novels and books, and we try to show it off that we know these words. But for the media, it is important to omit them, to forget them, and to pull them out from our writing. Avoid a succession of loose sentences. In one media report, probably one or two loose sentences could be acceptable, but their repetition successively in a paragraph must be avoided. Try to learn to express coordinate ideas in similar form. What do you mean by coordinate ideas? We mean ideas that are related to each other and one idea leads to another. In such a situation, the sentence formation should avoid the use of different tenses, or even one sentence in past form, one in present form, or one in future form should be avoided. It has to be similar when we are trying to express coordinated ideas. Keeping related words together. In summaries, keep to one tense, that is what I just mentioned, and place the emphatic words of a sentence at the end. This is something which we all learn when we are trying to explain our point to people when we are talking. We try to retain the most important part of our discussion towards the end, saying that in the end I would like to tell you. So when we use this in the end kind of formation of sentence in our verbal discussion, it is important to use a similar format in writing also. Now let's come to factors of language. There are mainly three factors of language that need to be remembered for writing in the media. One is using simple language or simplifying the language which we use. The second is localizing the contents, and the third is maintaining continuity. Now let us see what these things mean. Simplifying the language. It means ensuring that whatever information is conveyed is understood by all sections of the audience. How to achieve this? It can be achieved by using short and simple words. Simple and short words are always easy to spell and easy to understand, but they might be difficult to remember because we tend to use bigger words when we are dealing with difficult situations. This is something which we have to learn when we write for the media. Therefore, there are some examples here. Use the word about instead of approximately. Use the words after rather than following. Use the word let rather than permit. Use the word but rather than however. Use the word use rather than utilize. Use the word make instead of manufacture. Use the word plant rather than facility. Take part instead of participate. Set up in case of establish. Enough in case of sufficient. Show in the case of demonstrate, and so on. Now, underdeveloped countries could also be mentioned as poor countries, or substantive word could be replaced by a small word such as big or real. Here I am reminded of a very well-known quote by Winston Churchill, the famous Prime Minister of Great Britain. He said that short words are best and the old words, when short, are best of all. Short words are best and the old words, when short, are the best of all. When I say old words, we mean the classic words which could be big, which could be longer, which could be difficult to understand, but when they are short, they are best of all. It means quality expressed in short is the best of all expressions. Using active voice and not passive voice, using direct sentences instead of indirect sentences. A small example is A hit B is a better description than B was hit by A. This is an indirect and passive expression which it is grammatically correct, but it does not convey the meaning as directly and as straightforward as in the earlier example. There are always some words which add nothing but length to your prose. Journalists who have spent years in the profession know this. I mean, nobody could know it better than them, that when the matter is less and they have lots of time at their disposal, they use big words, big phrases, so that the copy length is increased. This kind of media writing is best left for writing articles or writing editorials or writing essays rather than writing news. So we have to be very cautious about using words which add nothing but words. Word count will increase, but the meaning will not improve. We have to use adjectives to make our meaning more precise, but we have to be cautious when we are using it too much, or if we are using it to add simple emphasis on something. As media writers, we need not emphasize on a certain point, but we have to mention it as clearly as if we are making comparisons. A is better than B is a simple statement without using unnecessarily objectives or adjectives. So we have to be very cautious of using extra adjectives because they tend to blur the actual meaning of the sentence. Here the word very is a case in point, very, V-E-R-Y. If it occurs in a sentence which we have written, try to leave it out, remove it from the sentence and see whether the meaning has changed. For example, the response was good, and the other sentences, the response was very good. Try to understand that the response was good sentence has more force and has more clarity, and probably it tends to convey the meaning in a more clear manner than the sentence the response was very good. When we say the response was very good, we tend to add it as an emphasis from our own side. It may not have a bearing in the facts of the case, but we are adding it because we believe that by adding very, we are sounding better, which we may not. In English, there are certain prepositions which are used without knowing why they are being used. This is a very tricky kind of a situation which everyone who has been writing in English has encountered one time or the other. The examples are shoot off rather than shoot, meet rather than meet with. Companies can be bought and sold rather than bought up and sold off. Plots can be hatched, but we say plots are hatched up. Organizations are headed rather than headed up. Children can be sent to bed rather than sent off to bed. Advice is given free or for nothing, but not for free. Advice is given free. There is no need to write for free. These are some examples which we have to remember when we are writing for the media, because here space is at a premium. When we are writing for the media, whether it is print or audio or visual, we are short of space in case of print, and we are short of time in case of audio and visual. So how do we save on time and space? We save by using lesser words and putting more meaning into those lesser words, which cover those few centimeters or those few seconds which are available to us. At the same time, there is another example that certain words are very often redundant. Examples are top politician or top priority instead of politician or priority. If a politician is a prime minister, then he is a prime minister. And if a politician is a politician and nothing else, he is a politician. There is no need to add a word such as big or important. Similarly, top priority. Priority as an English word means something which is up on the line, up on the scale. So there is no need to write top priority. Another redundant word is he delivered a major speech. Now, if a speech contains important announcements, then it is better to say that it was an important speech, or it was a speech that contained important information rather than a major speech. The word major here is quite redundant. Similarly, a safe haven. We often say criminals are looking for a safe haven. In fact, they are looking for a heaven. A heaven is a hideout. A hideout has to be safe. So there is no need to say safe haven. Similarly, the word most probably, most especially. Here the use of the word most is redundant in both the cases. You can simply say probably or especially. Another common mistake in media writing is the use of the phrase the fact that, whereas you can make use with that. So these are some examples which show that what we can save in terms of space by eliminating redundant words. The next point in discussion is some words which convey a meaning that is only in mind but not in reality or not in the dictionary. One word is community, the word community. The word community purports to convey a sense of togetherness that may well not exist. The Hindu community means the Hindus. The business community means the businessmen, and so on. There is no need to mention the word community when we mean a group of people. The word community has to be used when we tend to explain something in comparison to a sense of togetherness or a sense of rivalry or a sense of competition. Otherwise, the word community can be safely avoided. Now, in short and in general, the key is to be concise. Concise means to be short and to be economical in our expressions or arguments, and the best way to be boring is to leave nothing out, use everything. It could well be correct, but it can be very boring, believe me, because it will have a lot of repetitions, a lot of big words, a lot of unnecessary words, a lot of things which can be avoided, and so on. So it is often said that journalism, like a diamond, will sparkle more if it is cut. This is a phrase which explains best what we need to do when we are writing for the media. Another point to be remembered in modern day media is the use of jargon. Jargon is basically a collection of informal words that are used first in vocabulary and then adopted by the language. They do not belong to a dictionary, but they belong to conversation amongst the people. But since modern day journalism tends to come down to the level of people in every strata of society, jargon finds its place in media writing also. So using jargon, if you may use it, is like showing off that you are in, and the readers, if they do not understand, are out. I am sure you understand what you mean by in when we say that a certain style is in and a certain kind of garments is out. Now this in and out are basically products of jargon, which we use to show that we are in, and the reader who doesn't understand it is out. Specific or typical words should be used in their proper context rather than showing off our knowledge of the jargon. All the jargon that tries to dignify nonsense with seriousness, or it is to obscure the truth, to hide the truth, to cast a shadow over the truth, must be avoided. Jargon could serve a purpose when we are trying to explain or express a certain situation in a group of people like youngsters and students and business people and so on, but it should not be used to hide the facts or to simply add respect to something which is meaningless, that is, to dignify nonsense. In the same manner, we must try not to use foreign words and phrases unless there is no English alternative. There are certain words in English which are derived from French, Latin, Greek and many other languages, but they have become part of the English language. So there is no point in avoiding them. But there are certain words which are not a common and integrated part of the English language, and they still belong to a foreign language. Use of such words should be avoided because it is very clear that by using such words we are trying to show off our knowledge, which does not serve any purpose in the media. Another short example here is it is simpler to say a year or per year rather than per annum. A phrase saying a person rather than per person instead of per capita and so on. These are words which have been integrated into the English language from foreign languages, and then they do not add value to what we are saying. They simply overshadow what we are trying to say earlier. The next component in writing is localizing the contents. What do we mean by localizing the contents? It means that if the item or the report or the writing carries information that pertains to or comes from a place or person not familiar with your readers, then a proper build-up or introduction is important so that your reader can understand and empathize with it. Otherwise, the readers might ignore it. This can be done by using proper introductions, explanations, and quoting familiar examples, such as if you are writing about a new technique being used by the police or the medical fraternity or the doctors, then a mention of what was being used earlier here in our context, in our country, in our city has to be given, so that a background is clear to the writers that okay, this is something which is happening in a distant foreign country, why it is being conveyed to us, why the media is bringing that report to us, because we must know that what we are doing so far has become much simpler, it has become much easier because of a new technique developed elsewhere. The intention to make the reader understand what is being presented to him has relevance for him also. The reader must understand that what is being presented to me is relevant for me. Otherwise, why should the reader read it at all? Localizing even a local content is important because they might be first time readers. There are readers who belong to your city, your town, but they might be first time readers of your newspaper. So even they need to be told about certain local facts and factors. A media person or a writer should never presume that the readers know as much as him. We must always keep this in mind, that as media writers, we must convey the full and complete information to our readers, even if it tends to become repetitive. If a certain information is given today and a follow-up is to be given tomorrow, the basic information has to be repeated tomorrow, because tomorrow there might be a first time reader who doesn't know what had appeared a day earlier. Never force a statement or a fact because you think it is commonly known. We have to explain it and bring it down to the level of the average reader. As I mentioned earlier, in the case of media and mass communication, the reader spectrum is very wide. It is a neo-literate person or a semi-literate person to a Nobel laureate. So both of them at each end of the spectrum must understand what is being conveyed and if it is relevant for them at all or not. For example, if we are interviewing a person from a country named Venezuela or Djibouti, we must mention that where is this country located, how far it is from India, why the visitor has come to India, and why we have considered it important to interview him. Otherwise, the reader might just see the name of the country and ignore it. Then all our effort shall be wasted. Similarly, as I mentioned, writing a follow-up to an incident that took place yesterday must include a wrap-up so that the first-time readers also get the right perspective and get to understand the complete picture rather than a one-day picture. Similarly, if we are talking about government policy or an announcement related to a government policy, then it has to be mentioned what was the policy earlier, how it is going to impact our lives from tomorrow onwards, and what difference will it make to people around us. The third aspect was maintaining continuity. Maintaining continuity means the exercise through which all similar stories are linked to give shape to one comprehensive report. For those who are writing for the media, it is very important, and in fact it is one of the early lessons which they must learn. Through this exercise of maintaining continuity, snatches of one-line information are taken up from early reports to fill in the gaps in the later reports. There could be brief reports coming in at short intervals about any incident in the morning, in the evening, in the afternoon, in the evening, and in the night. But when we are writing about it late in the night, we have to maintain a string of continuity from what happened in the morning to what happened in the night. Basically, it is a combination of sorting and tallying exercise, much like reconciling the account books, what has come, what has gone, what has been added, what has been subtracted. So by adding up everything, we arrive at a definite figure. In the case of maintaining continuity in media reports, we ensure that all that got in the form of information, big or small, flashes, telephone calls, SMSs, and so on, is incorporated in what goes out as the final report in the form of one composite report in one straight tense. It has to be in the present tense, it has to give the right connectivities, the credit lines, and so on, so that we ensure that everything which has been discarded has been included as far as the key points are concerned. There could be one sentence containing just one point of information. So when we are using that information, only one point is to be included. The other sentence can be discarded. This is something which is taken care of by writers when they are writing their copy, but at the second stage, the editors take care of it in a much better manner, because this is a more wider exercise with a perspective of the complete paper or the complete product rather than one report. But the writer must ensure that in the report which he or she has submitted, the continuity is maintained, so that even the editors do not get confused, because one part of the report is in present tense, one part is in the past tense, and the morning fact says 10 o'clock, the evening fact says 5 past 10, and so on. If there are different facts, if there is a difference in facts and figures and statistics, it should be made uniform so that the continuity is maintained. This is best done by the writer himself in the first case, and then the editors can take care of the rest. In case of many reports coming in about the same incident, it is important to take care of facts in the chronological order, or in the order they came in the order of time received. This can be done by the writers in two forms. One is by retaining the original sentences in quotes, by quoting some people, and the other is by writing or rewriting the whole set of information. This is basically a form of writing which is typical to the media. In case of writing for non-media purposes, you can write whatever comes to mind. But when we are writing for the media, we have to ensure that we quote people in the right perspective with the same words that have been used, and if there is a contradiction, it should be shown as a contradiction. This is what maintaining continuity is all about. The final product in such case automatically takes on such dimensions that any subsequent bits of information can be joined without much effort. From morning till evening, the information is coming in, we are using the relevant parts of it, and in the night, if anything else comes in, it can be joined at the right moment and at the right place. This is something which a writer must ensure, and this is something which is actually forms essence of media writing. A related area here is linking of similar stories. It often happens in case of media writing that if we are dealing with a subject or a person or a situation, we might get similar stories or similar reports from different destinations, and there is a possibility of getting one or two reports from different people or different sources. Now here it's not a question of continuity, but it could be a question of accommodating two stories which are similar, but they have been given by different people, therefore they have to be accommodated, therefore they have to be used. In such cases, the writer can take recourse to either using a common introduction and then moving on to two directions. Take one report followed by the other report, and if they come from different places, they can be used in order of time, in chronological order, or alternatively they could be used separately with a very clear message on top that in this situation we have got two different reports and here they follow. The point to remember is that we have to avoid repetition of facts, and we have to give our readers the right picture, and if there is a confusion about the right picture, especially because we or our representative hasn't seen it, then we must give the picture showing the contradictions clearly. So the points to remember: avoiding repetitive facts, mention full forms or full names once in the beginning and then go on to acronyms or short forms, keeping uniformity in spelling, names and occasions, using rewriting or conjunctions to provide links between descriptions, and by maintaining a continuity so that whatever is written starts properly and ends properly. So, my dear friends, writing for the media, as you have understood by now, is quite different from writing for non-media purposes, and in most cases writing for different forms of media will involve different types of approach and different types of sense of time and space, which we will take up later. To summarize today's lecture, let us recall what is meant by writing for the media. The media is a major component of the mass communication process, and it influences the opinion making of the masses through a process of information, education and entertainment. The media comprises print, audio and visual platforms. With the growth in technology, the electronic media is growing fast and it exercises great influence upon the people. The kind of writing for print and electronic media is also different, since the composition of the audience in every case is also vastly different. There are three components of writing for the media, that is introduction, description and conclusion. A good and strong command over the language is extremely important to convey the basic meaning of the content. The media plays a very sensitive role in societies that are developing and emerging, especially like our own country. Therefore, the media writing needs to take care of sensibilities of all sections of society. I hope you have enjoyed this discussion. I am sure you will keep the key points in mind when you take up the media writing in the near future. My best wishes and have a good day. Thank you.
Okay, you've got that great topic that you picked. You've done all your research and now you're ready to write. I want to talk very quickly about the parts of the speech, and you need to have all of them. All right? First, introduction. The introduction is always first. Last, conclusion. That's always going to be last. You want to take a look at how long your speech is or is supposed to be to determine how long each of your sections is going to be. In the middle, you're going to have probably 3 body parts. The only reason that you would have more is if you're doing a really lengthy speech, like 15 to 20 minutes, okay? You don't want a 5-minute introduction, okay? Nice try, won't work. Let's assume we're doing an 8 to 10 minute speech, okay? We want our introduction to be max 2 minutes, but usually about 1.5 minutes. The shortest part of the speech is going to be your conclusion. Your conclusion doesn't need to be more than about 1 minute. So we've got 3 minutes tied up so far. So we've got 5 or more minutes for our body. Well, I'm thinking if we have 3 equal body parts, they each could be about 2.5 minutes. That's how we're going to divide up. I always recommend starting with the introduction, so that's where we're going to go next. Hey, now we are ready to talk about the body. You've got a killer introduction. Now let's have us a killer body. Okay, remember what we did? We had our introduction followed by a what? You got it. Traditionally, almost always 99% of the time you're going to have 3 body parts. Again, we're looking at, maybe a 7 to 10 minute speech here. Now later on I'm going to give you a speech, I'm going to show you a speech, and I'm going to cut it down to about 4 minutes for time's sake. But in a 5 to 7, 3 to 5, 7 to 10, you're looking at 3 body parts, okay? So our first body part was research. What we want to talk about here is all the different areas that you can research, okay? We've got periodicals like Consumer Reports. You definitely want to mention that. That's a big one. You've got Kelley Blue Book. You definitely want to mention that. You want to talk about websites, specifically the website of the manufacturer. You're looking to buy a GM, you want to go to the GM site, and you want to mention that in your research body part. You can also talk about various other websites, including online forums and blogs. That's a really, really great way to find information. So that's going to be body part 1. We're going to talk about research. Then we're going to do a what? Transitional statement. And then we're going to talk about talking. All right? We want to talk about talking to everyone you can about the specific car that you're looking at. Maybe you have friends or relatives that drive the car that you're thinking about purchasing. Talk to them. Heck, talk to strangers. Really, really important to talk to satisfied and dissatisfied customers if there are some. And this is where you might be able to combine the two. You might be able to jump back up to research and look in those online forums and talk to people online. Look at that. So in this body part, we're only going to talk about talking. Transitional statement, body part 3, exactly the same thing. We're going to talk about the test drive. All the aspects of the test drive, only the test drive. And that should give you about 6 minutes of body.